Stop looking at it through a purchaser's lens and look at it through an investor's lens when you're purchasing real estate with your VA entitlement, because you get tax-free money. It's called basic allowance for housing. Okay. It does not show up in your tax return. So why not leverage that money to become financially stable through real estate?
Absolutely.
Good afternoon. This is Anthony Glenn checking in with the Sit Rep podcast, where we help you win in real estate. And today's guest, we have Constance Carlisle. What's going on? Broker extraordinaire. And today we're going to be discussing a couple of essential things. Today's topic is interesting. It's VA loans during a recession period. Now, let's completely all the way unpack that. So, we started New Vision Mortgage and Real Estate in 2006 is when we started the journey, 2007, and it was during the recession. Why don't you talk about that moment? And
So there were a couple of different things that were going on in that time frame that we don't have now, which is very interesting. So you had adjustable rate mortgages that were coming due. People couldn't pay their mortgage, had interest only loans. So a lot of the things that we experienced then, we don't necessarily have now, which is a good thing. You know, you also had a lot of job loss during that time frame as well, which made the whole economic layout landscape very different. So in today's market, yes, we're coming off some super duper high inflation and trying to control that, but there are some good things that are going on. You have people who have stable jobs, incomes have increased, in addition to all the equity that people have built. So you don't really have that high risk of, you know, foreclosure, short sales, or being upside down in your home. So those are all great factors as we go into this different type of market. Now for buyers, it can be definitely a win. You know, now you're not having to pay over appraisal price. You can never, this is what I tell all of my clients. You can never change your entry point, meaning you can never change how much you paid for that house. You can never change the deal that you negotiated. That's something that you can't change, but interest rates are going to change over time. So be less worried about the interest rate than, you know, what is that deal that you were able to get on that home now? Because sellers are now having to participate.
now, another thing that's a little bit different. One of the things that I know you had talked about in regard to veterans purchasing, utilizing their VA entitlement. What is the difference now, moving into a period to where we're moving into a buyer's market, like concessions and things of that nature? Can you unpack that?
Absolutely. This is a great time because now they're not having to compete against all these cash offers and all the conventional offers. They really do have an opportunity to be competitive. Um, it was more difficult, right? The last, you know, couple of years to get that VA buyer considered because either they didn't have a lot of cash to put down or to pay over appraisal price. Now they're not really in that situation because things are staying on the market longer. So this is a really really great time for veterans to get in and really get an amazing deal.
Now, in addition to that, so say for instance, there's a property on the market. What are you advising in regard to the real estate professionals that are trying to purchase in regard to writing offers and getting them accepted now versus 6 months ago?
Well, absolutely, write them for value. You know, even sometimes you can really be more critical about if there's any repairs or if there's anything that, you know, let's just say you can't just slap a house up there anymore and just expect to get top dollar for it no matter what the condition is in. So be very critical, look at those comps. And even, you know, in some cases, you may even be able to, you know, bid a little bit below. The main thing I would say, especially because of the financing side, there not being as much room to finance closing costs, I would always just go for, you know, the closing cost credits or concessions.
Now, a closing cost credit and concessions, can you explain what that means? What exactly is closing cost to a VA buyer?
So your closing costs are anything that has to do with the loan itself. So yes, no, there is no down payment, but there are things like title, escrow fees, you know, sometimes, you know, few small lender fees, your appraisal, all of those things go into what we call closing costs.
Hmm.
Now, the concession side of things is if let's just say all your closing costs are paid and there's extra money over here, then those dollars can go to, you know, HOA. You know, can pay HOA for however months it covers. You can even decrease the principal balance of the loan or even offset the funding fee if there is one.
Now, for getting that concession and closing cost, rate wise, what are you seeing from a mortgage perspective? Like, let's just say I was pre-approved for 500,000 at a interest rate of 3.125. Now rates are at 5 and 6%, between 5 and 6%. How does that change the landscape in the searching for a first-time home buyer? What should they be aware of?
So it definitely changes the buying power. If anything, that's what's affected the most with rate hikes is your buying power. So if you were approved at 500,000, at say let's say just say 4%, and now you're paying 5%. Well, that can affect your buying power, by 40, $50,000, depending upon some other factors. If you were qualified at your max debt to income ratio, or maybe there could be a little bit more room, but it will definitely impact your your payment.
Okay, that makes sense.
Hmm.
So now there's a document that I know that lenders give out. They don't actually voluntarily give it out. So when you go into big institutions, I'm not going to say the names, y'all. Federal, Navy, AAUS, if you catch my drift. There's certain institutions that don't give you that. What is the difference for understanding that that document, and where do you look on that document in regard to the fees that are getting charged for that interest rate?
So the biggest section is Section A. That's where any of your origination charges, any points or anything like that, any additional um, underwriting fees or things like that are going to be in that section. That's really where you want to look to be able to compare apples to apples. Most times buyers don't have a lot of control over title and escrow fees because those are usually selected by the seller. Appraisal fee, that's a standard fee. Credit fees, those we don't control those, but what we do control is how much the rate is based on our institution. Standardized institutions have a little less flexibility than working with a bona fide broker who has access to an array of different investors or different little banks, if that makes more sense. So sometimes you can get a little bit of a better deal and really be able to shop your loan in one location, going with a broker.
Now, Connie, you said something on the Sit Rep podcast and the clubhouse room where you were basically saying that, the cost of entry is different from a down payment perspective. Do you remember that? You said that in the clubhouse room. Can you explain that, what you were saying?
So it just on how much money you're going to your outlay, right, from the beginning. So how much money are you going to actually have to pay out of pocket for this transaction? That's where negotiating a great deal now, where you have seller concessions, where you have some other funds that may be available that are not coming out of your pocket, will change that entry point. Not only are you probably going to, if you were to compare that same house to a year ago, that the cost of that house is going to be a little bit less. In addition to the fact of your out-of-pocket expense, meaning for your closing costs or any other, fees, and even possibly repairs. Because prior, even just 3 months ago, sellers really weren't in a position to, they could decline your repairs because of the supply and demand issue that we had. Now, the playing field is a little bit more even. And I do want to just, for all of the sellers out there, I do want to let everybody know that sellers aren't really losing. You have to think about it. You have people who just bought their house a year ago who have experienced 18 to 20% increase in their home. You're not losing. So if you do have to end up paying, let's say, even $10,000, and you were just in your home 1, 2, let's say 3 years, that's more than a normal environment of appreciation would have occurred. Mm-hmm. So I think we also have to recondition ourselves with our expectations of the market and really look at, okay, how much did I acquire this house for? How long have I been in the home? And what is my house now selling for? And so that, should help people realize, all right, maybe it's not a bidding war like it was a year ago, but guess what? I don't know what investment you could enter into and own for 3 years and have,
Hear ye, vets. Hey, check this out, man. We got Federal Navy or Federal Pentagon, if y'all catch my drift, or AAUS. That's not where you're going to learn how to win in real estate with your VA home loan entitlement. Listen up. If you're trying to get to the bag and win in real estate with your VA home loan entitlement, the Sit Rep podcast is where you're going to get real information and real vets teaching you how to scale and win in real estate with your VA home loan entitlement with the VA loan Masterclass, baby. Let's go. If you want more information, hit us up at wire10k.com where we help you win with the VA loan. And also we're going to be covering is how you can leverage your VA home loan entitlement to actually buy other investment properties, okay? So we're not just about veterans winning in real estate with the VA loan. We're also going to show you how to build your portfolio with the VA home loan entitlement and other alternative investments. If you want more information, hit us up at wire10k.com where we have SitRep podcasts coming to a theater near you. Let's freaking go. Make $200,000. Make $200,000. Yeah.
You know, especially, you know, when we're talking about the military community, this market has changed the game for so many veterans, which is amazing, you know, because that's what we love to do. And even now, you know, you can ask yourself, hey, well, am I going to have that same experience, you know, buying in this market? Well, things are still, again, your entry point is going to be a little bit lower. Things are still appreciating. You know, no one can guarantee 18 to 20%, but it's better than 0%.
Yes, and I definitely want to highlight something too. So let's do a little bit of math, y'all. Y'all cool with that? Give us a thumbs up in the chat. So let's just unpack this all the way. Okay, so let's just say that your purchase price, your monthly payment on a property, a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom in Southern California, this is just for instructional purposes only, was $2,500. That equates to a property around $450,000, somewhere around there. Okay, so that's $30,000 of non-taxable income that you are losing because you decided to wait and rent. Okay. So when you look at it from an investment perspective, you know, I think that, you know, the best option is to look at it from an investor perspective because you make money when you buy real estate, not when you sell it, right?
Absolutely.
Now I want to transition into something a little bit different. Let's talk about the layers of protection for a veteran in regard to purchasing their first house. So in that process, can you name a couple of, let's start with one layer of protection for a veteran for overpaying for a property? What would be the first one?
The biggest thing is the appraisal. The appraisal for veterans, especially, the appraisers have to have a higher level of certification to become a VA appraiser. So there are just some checks and balances that are a little bit different than FHA and even conventional when it comes to appraising the property. So that's the one thing that you can definitely, definitely a safeguard for overvalue. Now, but let's keep in mind too, that appraisal is only good for that period of time. You could have a comparable house close higher the next day or even close lower, which does overall affect the value over time. So that I definitely want to be clear with that. So, appraisals are usually good for about 90 days. So you're secure. I mean, that's why you see too, people's equity, their values have gone up month to month, right? So that appraisal that next month could either be higher or if it goes down, it could be lower. But for the veteran on that day, when they enter into that purchase, they can be pretty secure that they're not overpaying, once they get that appraisal.
That's good. And that's a contingency. That's a timeline within the contract is the appraisal, which usually comes towards the end. And then another protection for the veteran is the inspection period. Can you talk about that in regard to exiting out of a deal that's not good for a vet?
Absolutely. You definitely, no matter what, you want to get a home inspection. That's probably, in all reality, the appraisal is important, but that's going to happen. That's mandatory anyway. A home inspection is actually not mandatory, but it's something that we always encourage all of our clients to do. It's a must, but that is a choice. But in that, you can find all of the things that are underneath the skin of a property, the condition. So your heating, your cooling, your roofing, your foundation, your plumbing, your electric, all of the major items that if something were to go wrong, that would cost you a lot of money. So that's why you always want to get a home inspection to make sure that you are secure in all of the major areas that, potentially if you get into it, it could be a big expense and you want to know going into it what to expect. Several deals of mine have canceled because of home inspections, rightfully so. Mm-hmm. And they were beautiful on the outside. It wasn't anything that you saw from, a visual lens. And even as a real estate professional, our specialty is negotiating contracts. And in my case, also financing them. We are not home builders. So that is why you want to get someone who is qualified in that space. to be able to take a look at the house.
Indeed. And then another protection is that FHA VA amendatory clause is within the contract. Can you explain what that means and how it protects a vet?
So it's basically something that the buyer and seller agree to, meaning that the FHA or VA buyer, if the home does not come in at X amount of dollars, can exit the contract with no penalty.
Boom, there y'all have it, y'all. So the appraisal, right? The inspection, the FHA VA amendatory clause, 3 levels of protection, and to include the home inspection to make sure that the big 6 she mentioned, them plumbing, heating, air, electrical, foundation, and roof, get inspected during that period. And that's your level of negotiation. In most cases, they don't fix everything, but that is an area for you to get a credit to cover some of your closing cost.
Yes.
Now, Connie, I do have another question before we wrap up. What advice would you give military spouses and service members in regard to purchasing in this market?
Wow, I can just tell you that anything is better than renting. Okay, that's number one. Renting is a lose-lose proposition. So if you are financially prepared and able, then, going into home ownership is definitely something that you should consider. Always keep, look at your budget, make sure that you're financially ready. Sit down with a professional who can help you do that, because you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised where we all spend a lot of money that could be going towards something that is an investment. Also, I would definitely say if you are not at your last duty station or retiring, always look at your home as a financial vehicle. The numbers have to make sense, and buy with the exit in mind.
That is so powerful, man. Stop looking at it through a purchaser's lens and look at it through an investor's lens when you're purchasing real estate with your VA entitlement, because you get tax-free money. It's called basic allowance for housing, okay? It does not show up in your tax return. So why not leverage that money to become financially stable through real estate?
Absolutely.
So Connie, how can we find you?
You can find me at militarymortgagegroup.net. You can find me at Remax Liberty.
She always messes up.
RemaxLiberty.com. So yes, you can reach me in all of those places. And my information will be in the box below.
Outstanding. Well, Constance, now, just so you guys know, Constance is a real estate broker. She also has experience with investing. She's an investor as well, and she's been doing it since 1981, y'all. I'm joking.
See, look, I'm aging gracefully.
Since 2006. So a real estate broker and then a mortgage broker. So she has experience, a triple threat, y'all, in regard to analyzing the process. And I think that, you have to make sure that the people that you're dealing with understand the value of the VA entitlement before you guys go out there and start spending money. But I would just say, make sure you have an opportunity to sit down with someone that will give you a roadmap in regard to fixing your financial picture in order for you to be the best buyer possible. And that is what makes the good different from the great. This has been an outstanding podcast. Constance, thank you for joining us. And guess what? We got some amazing news. Amazing news. Let's go. All right, y'all. We are doing a VA home loan Masterclass. Is going to be at 805 College Boulevard, Suite 103. We're going to be doing it digitally, and we're going to be doing it in person. So if you guys are in the Oceanside or in the Southern California area, or in California, if you're out of state and you want to fly in and you want more information about that, make sure you go to wire10k.com and then go on our Facebook group, Win in Real Estate, and then you'll be seeing that date in August coming to a theater near you. I'm Anthony Glenn. I'm the host of the Sit Rep podcast and the Win in Real Estate Facebook group. Make sure you follow us at wire10k.com, where we'll be having more hot chicken nuggets coming out of the grease coming soon. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Let's go.